y'all, it's Chimdi. So this video is a collaboration with Shanita from the lovely Noir in Color. We met via the Adobe Creator Camp. You can sign up if you're interested in learning how to get really good at Premiere Pro. Her whole channel is all about finance and personal development, paying off her student loans and the gig economy and all that stuff. So when I saw this what her channel was about and we got connected, I was like, oh, she would be perfect for a collaboration, because a while ago, someone reached out and asked me, hey, what advice would you give yourself if you were to be paying off your student loans again? I paid mine off, I think about 4 years ago at this point. I used Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover, which was effective, but the process of paying it off, looking back, could have been a lot more joyful, you know? Could have been a lot more loving. My experience was that I was very bitter, I was very resentful, I was very angry, I had a very sacrificial mindset when it came to this process of paying off my loans. I wanted to just reflect a little bit on how I would have done it differently and some of the things that I would have just held closer to my heart while going through that process. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I really prayed to the Holy Spirit before I started this video, because as I was thinking about the title, I was like,
people are gonna be mad, girl.
Like, people are not gonna want to hear what you have to say. This is what I would tell myself when it comes to the journey that I am on. This is what would have really resonated with me at that time. And so if you, viewer, are watching and it resonates with you, that's amazing. And if it doesn't, that is okay too. Like, it is okay for us to be on different journeys. I was very blessed to get a full ride scholarship to undergrad. Yes, your girl is smart. I also went to an inner city Baltimore public school, which I think helped.
I was also valedictorian.
We don't need to go over these things, all right? This is the past. This is the past. Point is, all of my debt came from graduate school. So I had around 30 something that I think with interest became around 40 something. And I remember it was this class that I actually took in graduate school, and the professor made us buy his book, as they always seem to do. But it was a really good book, and I'm very grateful for it, because it taught me a very fundamental truth that I had not been exposed to at that point in my life. And at that point I was like in my early 20s, right? And it was this idea that you control how you feel. I had always thought, and I was convinced, that no, you're this neutral person, and then things happen to you, and then you react to those things. So those things over there are responsible for how you feel. And I remember arguing that in the class, and he was like, no girl, that's not true. And he gave some examples of, like, you know, imagine your friend giving you a hug versus someone on the street who looks creepy giving you a hug. And it's the same action, but because of how you feel about one person or the other, that changes how you feel in that moment, right? That was pretty groundbreaking for me. I think that's a very kind of fundamental spiritual belief too, is understanding who you truly are, your real connection to God, and that these things in the external world, they aren't you, really. Like, I mean, we can get into that, but basically, like, you are in control, basically. I think I would have applied that truth, that this is really my life, this is really my energy to control as I want to. I would have taken that into the process of me paying off my loans, because I was committed to paying that off. I have a friend who, maybe this has changed for her, but when she started graduate school a few years ago, she was very much like, yeah, I'm not gonna pay these loans off. Like, she was going into it with this energy of like,
yeah, they're not getting this money back.
I didn't agree, right? I knew that the amount I was paying off, even then, and I think my abundance mindset has only grown with time, but even then I was like, I can pay off $30,000, $40,000. That's not that much money. Like, my starting salary will be more than that, and my career is only gonna grow, so there's no reason why I won't be able to pay this amount off, so it's fine. So I was committed already to paying it off, and I think what I would have done differently is have the energy of, since I'm going to do it anyway, let me be intentional about how I feel while I'm doing this. The approach of the Total Money Makeover talks a lot about gazelle-like focus, and you're just focused on paying off your loans. I have found, and that experience did teach me, that the more you focus on something, the more the resources come to give you what you want and what you need. So because I was focused on paying off those loans, I had the opportunity to do like consulting work that I hadn't really done before, which gave me extra money to pay off my loans. And I just found all these different opportunities. I did catering in undergrad, so I actually went back in grad school, did it a few more times just to get the extra money. I was finding all of these ingenious ways of getting more money to pay off my loans, because that was my #1 focus. Like I said, it was effective. Very glad that I am debt-free now. At the same time, I didn't let the other parts of my life, the parts that contribute to making yourself a full person, so like deep friendships and having a social life and having an apartment that you feel safe and comfortable and warm in, and all the stuff that makes your whole life worth living, not just your financial life. I wasn't pouring into that in the same way, and I think that led to a lot of I would just say low negative energy. Like, I don't want to say depression, but I feel like I was not really in that great of a space. And I think that's because I wasn't pouring into my whole life, including my spiritual life, in the same way that I was pouring into, let's just get rid of this debt. Let's just get rid of this debt. One thing that I do think I did pretty well then, but has only grown with my experience, is also being honest with myself. In the same way that I knew that I was gonna pay these loans off, even if I felt a way about it. I also know now, as I think about what's happening in our country and the way, there were promises made about, the student loans being forgiven or suspended or whatever else, and that's just not really happening. And I worked for different nonprofit organizations, and the one I worked for most recently, we supported helping educators run for office, as well as do organizing work and have public policy jobs. I worked with someone's campaign, and it was so interesting to see the behind the scenes of working on a campaign, because he was a renter in LA. He would have been the only renter on the board that he was running for if he had been elected. He did not win the election. Seeing sort of that process of how much energy and effort and money and time goes into running for a local office, I realized, like, oh yeah, like, this is why people don't do it, and this is why some of the changes that we want to see from our politicians, from our public policymakers, don't get enacted. At that organization, we were always being encouraged to run for office, and it's because you need to be asked about 7 times on average to run before you actually do it. I still have not run for office, and I don't currently have plans to. I think that speaks to my truth, which is that I will vote, and that's about it. I'm gonna send some tweets off, I am back on social media. We're gonna talk about that in a different video. I'll send some tweets off, about certain policy issues, and I'll donate money, right? But that is basically the extent to which I am willing to engage in policy and in politics, and that's just the choice that I've made. But that choice comes with having to live in a world with policies that I don't think are great, that I don't agree with, that I don't support, and that is my truth. What I really appreciated about graduate school is that, and just what I studied in general, because I studied political science, then I studied public policy in grad school, and what I think I really appreciated is that it's very easy to criticize our systems when you are not actively involved in making it better. And often, this is something I've learned from like the more spiritual side, it's often the people who aren't involved in actually doing something to make it better who have the most cynicism. I remember spending time with a group of folks, and we were talking about, some policy issue. Folks were just, complaining about it, because it's an easy thing to do if you have a lower energy, to just like kind of build and grow in that low energy. And I remember thinking, I remember kind of bringing up, like, how are we, as young, healthy, successful people, how are we gonna kind of make this change? And the energy was like, there's nothing we can do about it, It's all those people over there, it's their responsibility to do something differently about it. And I just thought that was so interesting, because if everyone has that mindset of, oh, it's someone else's job to do X, Y, and Z, then of course things never get done. And I'm reading A Course in Miracles, and one of the main things it kind of emphasizes is this idea that separation, like thinking I'm over here, you're over there, is a big part of where our suffering comes from, is believing in separation and doing things to reenact that separation. And often what we're really doing is we're projecting the guilt we feel about not being aligned with the Lord, or not thinking we are, because we can never not be with God, truly. We think we aren't with God, and we feel really guilty about that because we think that's our fault. And so we are always projecting that guilt outwards. And I think it's always really easy to look at another person, another institution, and say, my circumstance is because of you. What I am really grateful for is that I felt very empowered in my decision to take out student loans. I didn't feel like somebody was forcing me to do it. I did feel as if I needed them to get a good job, but that's not true. And the jobs that I got since, folks without masters, they had similar roles too. It wasn't really a necessity, I just told myself it was. But I didn't go into it feeling like this is my only option, this is the only thing I can do. I was like, no, I want to take out these loans. I believe that it will help me get a job, and then I will then pay it back. And that's literally exactly what happened. That's what's allowed me to live in this financial freedom that comes with not having that regular debt, and have a compassion towards folks who are still in the process of paying it off, because I know how it feels like. I think it's very interesting how, either people who haven't taken out loans or have taken out loans and paid them back have this attitude of, well, I did it, so you should do it too. My favorite thing about true forgiveness is the idea that you're not saying, oh, you sinned, you did something wrong, but I'm gonna forgive you for it. You're saying, actually, you are a child of God in the same way I am a child of God. children of God are actually literally perfect because that's how God made us. So you actually couldn't do anything wrong. So there's nothing for me to forgive you for. And that's like the gist of A Course in Miracles and how we get back into alignment with God and seeing the way God sees. For a lot of us, that's not what we're used to. We really enjoy blaming others and calling other people guilty and projecting that guilt outwards. I'm just thinking about how this is about student loans and I can't help but make it about the Lord because that's all I ever really want to talk about. But essentially, I am glad I paid off my loans. I am glad I felt empowered to own that it was a choice to take the loans out. I am glad I am now debt free. And the only thing I would have done differently, though of course everything leads us to this moment, is actually just been more intentional about my energy as I was paying them off. And so now as I go into new experiences and phases and chapters and things that might seem challenging, I'm just like, what I can control is my energy. I can keep putting out a beautiful, loving energy, and in that way, that same love is gonna come right on back to me. A big thing A Course in Miracles talks about is that we are love, so all we should do is teach love and give love, because that's all we are, and everything we give, we have. And so I only want to give love and teach love because that's all I am, that's all I wanna be. So I hope this has helped you. I hope this has brought a little bit of love and energy into your spirit. If you are in the process of paying off loans, I am sending you so much love. If you're committed to actually doing it, let me know in the comments sort of where you are in your debt journey. Do you have any debt? Have you paid it off? Are you going to pay it off? Or are you just like, you know what? I'll just have it. I'll just have it until I die. And then honestly, what they gonna get you in the grave? Like they can't get that money back from you. That's totally fine. Like literally, you can do whatever you want. Like you can do whatever you want. It's fine. All right, y'all. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to see more. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.